Hello, I'm Marcus Alton from the tribute website brianclough.com, and it was a real treat to talk to Cloughie's legendary defender Des Walker. The full interview will be coming soon, but in this bite-size episode you'll hear Des's verdict on his former team as they fly high in the Premier League. He talks about the importance of embracing the club's history and how he came to join Forest in the first place.
Well, that's quite simple. They're double European champions, and won the league. You're talking about the very top of the tree.
Yeah.
So I think people at the moment, Forest are sitting pretty, and people think, wow, we're all right, Forest. Do you know what I mean? But in my day, we were always all right. I came to a team that was trenched in success. So the only thing we've got to do is try and emulate some kind of success, because you come to a club because it's great, because you want to wallow in the tradition to keep it great, not because it's a weight on your shoulders, And I think some people can take it as a weight on their shoulders. Winning 2 European Cups and winning the league and being top of Europe isn't a weight on your shoulder. It's a privilege to play for that football club.
You mentioned the current Forest side. What do you think to their setup at the moment, especially the defence?
Well, I don't think it's defence. I think it's a whole team. You can't single out ones or the others. I think, it's easy to... if you've got two people sat in front of you, defence is going to be stronger straight away, because they set up a way to just counter-attack teams. So defensively, you're going to be strong, because if you only set up to counter-attack and you defensively as a team you're not strong, then you're going down.
Yeah.
They've set up that way. Do you know what I mean? So that gives their defence quite a lot of protection.
Yeah.
And but to do that way, you've got to keep clean sheets, which is what they're doing, and they're doing it very, very well. So, I think the manager understands the game of football really well, and he understands players. And when I've watched Forest, what I see is a similarity to Brian Clough. Where I see a similarity to the two managers is the fact that I think every player on that pitch when they go out knows their job. Not only do they know their job, they're comfortably doing their job, Brian Clough never asked you to do anything you couldn't do. Mm-hmm. He expected you to do what you was good at. And otherwise, he's quite happy to play a youngster who's left-footed rather than play a 33-year-old who's right-footed playing on the left, because he's asking him to do something he's not good at. So this is where he would use any player. He just thinks, well, there's a slot, that's what you're good at, here's your chance.
They can do the job. Yeah.
Correct. And I think this manager's quite similar. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And which means that players go out and they're more content, because you've got to be comfortable if you're being asked to do something that you're good at rather than what you're not so good at.
Well, there's more from Des in a moment, but in a recent live green jumper event, I was asked about what Cloughie would have thought of Forest's performances in their third consecutive season back in the Premier League. And in this short recording from the event, I also compare the circumstances to when Cloughie appeared on radio phone-ins more than 20 years ago. I think he'd like the style of play, the counter-attacking football, which often he encouraged and liked to see. Those phone-ins, Forest was still languishing in the second tier, and it was all very frustrating. And it would be just wonderful to hear what he had to say about the Forest side these days. I think he'd admire the defence because he always said it was built on a solid defence. They all know their jobs, they all carry them out. And it's exciting to watch. So I think he would be full of praise for what's happening there at the moment. Just a short excerpt there from a live green jumper event. I was also asked about Forest's fortunes in an interview on Notts TV with Mark Dennison.
They're doing incredibly well, defying a lot of expectations, I think it's fair to say.
Yes.
What do you think Cloughie would make of how they're performing?
Yeah, I think he'd be delighted to see how they're taking on the big boys, at the top of the Premier League with exciting counter-attacking football. I think he'd really admire Chris Wood as a centre-forward himself. Good old-fashioned striker, putting the goals away, but also, you know, giving defenders a bit of a nightmare. And it's one of the subjects that we talk on the Green Jumper podcast as well a lot. People love talking about, you know, Cloughie memories.
I think the big clubs now that are running the show are the richest clubs and have been for many, many years. When I was working for a living, Manchester United were the biggest club in Europe. They hated us. We had the audacity to beat them. Same with Liverpool. We knocked them out the European Cup. They couldn't believe it.
Coming back now to the Des Walker interview, he also picked out one of the Forest players to illustrate what he liked to see. Here's another excerpt from our chat, starting with the impact Cloughie had on his career.
Everything I knew about football come through a Brian Clough lens. And he simplified it. I knew my job and I knew how to use the ability I had to get my job done. And that come from him. Do you know what I mean? The problem was with that is when I changed club and went on to someone else, everyone seemed to want to complicate it and put their stamp. And I think, well, there ain't no stamp on stopping the ball going in your net. That's my job. Yeah, I don't want to know how to do it. I know my job. Do you know what I mean? Stick something on it, stop it going in the net, which is why I like Milenkovic. I know, people are a little bit on probably the other centre half. I like Milenkovic because he goes on a pitch, I think, to stop that ball going in his net. And that's your job as a centre half.
And you can hear the complete interview with Des Walker on a forthcoming episode. In the meantime, there are more Cloughie stories on the Tribute website, brianclough.com, where you can buy signed copies of my Cloughie books, which are supporting good causes. I hope you can join me again next time for more memories of the great man in the green jumper.